universe declares your majesty. You are holy, holy, Lord of heaven and earth. Lord of heaven and earth. Thank you, Auntie.
Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you for that beautiful song. God bless you. Neha, go ahead and sing. Neha? Neha, are you there?
Oopsie, sorry. Yes, I forgot I was mute.
Okay, go ahead, sing.
From the top of my head, wave down to my toes. I can't keep it all inside, 'cause I want to dance with all my might. Everybody, everywhere, raise your hands up in the air. Say Jesus, Jesus, Jesus is alive. Everybody, everywhere, raise your hands up in the air and say Jesus, Jesus, Jesus is alive. From the top of my head, wave down to my toes. I can't keep it all inside, 'cause I can't keep it all inside. Everybody, everywhere, raise your hands up in the air, say Jesus, Jesus, Jesus is alive. Everybody, everywhere, raise your hands up in the air, say Jesus, Jesus, Jesus is alive. From the top of my head, wave down my toes. I can't keep it all inside, 'cause I want to dance with all my might. Everybody, everywhere, raise your hands up in the air, say Jesus, Jesus, Jesus is alive.
Wonderful. Praise the Lord. Thank you, Neha. Thank you for that beautiful song. God bless you. Anybody else wants to sing a song? Okay. So let's go to the Bible study. So what are we learning about? So who can tell me what are we learning?
We're learning
What are
about
we studying?
Joseph.
We are learning about Joseph, and we are looking into the book of Genesis, right? Yesterday we stopped at chapter 41, and let's go into chapter 42. So before that, what do we learn? What are the things that we learned from Joseph's life? What do you see? The first thing that we saw from Joseph's life, what did we see? When he was in Egypt, when he was sold as a slave and gone, he went to Egypt. What does the Bible say? The Lord was?
With him.
Yeah, the Lord was with God, right? So the first day, the first thing that we learn from Joseph's story is the Lord is with all those, with those who trust even in the most difficult times. Our God is always with us, even though it might seem very difficult, very hard, but still we can remember that God, the Lord is with them, those who trust in Him. And the next day we saw that He never forgets His children. God never forgets His children. Wherever we are, whether we are outside, inside, whether we are in prison or out, wherever we are, he always remembers us. He never forgets his children. He never forgets his children. That's what we learned from Joseph's life, the second. And then yesterday we saw that God's timing is perfect. See, when we look now, when we read the story, we can understand how God had worked, how God had put everything in place, how he used the cupbearer, how he used the baker, how he used Potiphar. We see God bringing different people together according to work, to do his plan, to work out his plan. And he does not do it on our time. He does not do it when we want it to happen. He does it in his own time. And one thing we can know is his timing is always perfect. His timing is always perfect. There's no two ways about it. It's definite. It might seem it's very late for us. It might seem too long for us, but God's timing is always perfect. So when we saw that Joseph had a very protected life. His father loved him so much. He was the favorite child. Jacob protected him, kept him safe all the time. But when it was time for God to start using Joseph, he was taken away from his family. He was taken away from his family. And the circumstances that God used to take him away from the family was God used the hatred of the brothers, right? It was the hatred of the brothers that let Joseph go be sold to the Ishmaelites. But God was already with him. He did not allow the brothers to kill him. He allowed them to sell him, but he did not let them kill him. So that is what God's plan. God's plans are all perfect. But if you stand in Joseph's shoes and think about it. He was a young man. He was 17. And now he is sold. He is all alone in a new place. He is all by himself. He must have felt so disappointed. He must have been so scared when he went into Potiphar's house. When he was wrongly charged, he must have felt disappointment. Again, because he didn't do anything wrong. He was doing the right thing. He was doing the right thing. God was blessing him. And then he was put in the prison. He must have been disappointed. He must have said, okay, I'm in the prison. God is with me. It's okay. And then God lets him reveal the dream of the cupbearer. And then he was hoping that the cupbearer would go and tell the king and that he would be freed. And then for 2 years, he does not hear anything. So he must have been disappointed again. But why do you think God allowed these disappointments? What do you think? What was God doing during this time? Why was God disappointing Joseph so many times?
Because it was his plan and purpose.
It was his plan and purpose, yes. But what was God doing? What was God doing with Joseph's life? Joseph can become bitter. Joseph can become angry and he can leave God. But all those things don't happen. So what was God doing during this time?
Testing Joseph's faith, Andy.
Testing Joseph's faith, yep. What else? What else do you think? When you hope to have something, you don't get it, but you have to wait a little longer. During that waiting period, what do you learn?
I feel like it wasn't that God didn't allow him to get out of prison because it wasn't the time for him to.
It wasn't the time for him to, that's correct. But what was Joseph doing during this time? Like, what was, I know it's not the perfect timing. The timing was not right. So God let Joseph be there. But during this time, what do you think God was doing with Joseph? In the prison, in Potiphar's house, what do you think God was doing with Joseph?
God
He was using Joseph.
influence others,
How? What is it, Chelsea?
to influence and help others.
Influence and help others. That's a good one. Yeah.
And also he was using Joseph.
Mm-hmm. He was
using Joseph to interpret dreams.
He was using Joseph to interpret the dreams. That's also correct. But Joseph was also learning certain things, right? Staying in Potiphar's house, in the prison, Joseph was learning. See, in the Potiphar's house also, God blessed him in such a way that Potiphar entrusted him everything. He gave him all the work. He made him in charge of everything. So what was Joseph learning? Joseph was learning to do the service, how to work, how he can manage people. Don't you think he was learning how to manage the servants, how to manage the people, how to get the work done? Right? Yeah. So these were some things that he was learning. He was during that time, God was helping him learn how to manage people, how to be with people, how to do the service. So the two things that God does when he does not, when we have disappointments, or when he does not let things happen according to our time, during that period, God is teaching us very valuable lessons. He was teaching patience to Joseph. He was building his character. Joseph's character was being built. He was growing more perfect. He was growing to do the right things more perfectly. He was learning how to manage the people, how to work people, how to get work done, how to get the works done. And probably in the prison, see, who are the people in the prison?
Slaves.
Slaves are in the prison. Who else are in the prison? Actually, why do people go to prison?
Because they did something wrong, or they did like murder or something. They did, or they stole something, or
Yeah.
killed
So
someone.
the people in the prison are, yeah, thieves. They could be thieves. They could be murderers. They could be, all of them are people who have done something wrong, who have offended, or who have done something wrong. They must have been rebelled. They must have killed someone. They must have stolen something, or they must have rebelled against their masters. So these were the people who were in the prison, and Joseph was in charge of those people, and he found favor with them. He found favor with the prisoners. He found favor. See, the baker and the cupbearer, he was able to have compassion towards such bad people also. So God was building his character in such a way that he was able to love, he was able to have compassion even towards people who did something wrong. So God was teaching him compassion. God was teaching him that he can forgive. He can be okay with people who have done something wrong. So when the time comes, he would be ready to be able to forgive, to be able to show that same compassion to others. So what God was doing, he was building his character and he was enlarging his capacity to love, to serve, to do the work. So he was making him bigger. He was increasing his capacity to do the work, to show kindness to others, to help others, to love others, to have patience with others, to get the things done. He was giving him the wisdom to know the rules of the country. He didn't know anything about Egypt. He didn't know what the rules of Egypt were, what they did. But now, right now, probably he was ready to be the ruler, the second in charge of Egypt. He was almost ready. He must have learned the language. He must have learned all the rules, regulations. So God was building him during this time. That's what God does with all of us. It might seem late, we don't understand why we have to go through struggles, why we have to have disappointments. For example, Chelsea's schedule is still not, she said her schedule was not ready and it is late. We don't know why God is giving those 2 days of time or 3 days of time for Chelsea. So everything, God, and probably Chelsea will understand why what was the best thing, why it happened, why it was late. She might understand it at a later date, later point. And she might think, oh, this is the reason God delayed my schedule so that I can do this. So God is always looking at the big picture. He knows the future. He knows. That's what we should understand. He knows the future. He knows what we will be doing. So in 10 years, you don't know what you will be, but God already knows what you will be in 10 years. So he makes sure that you learn or experience and that you are ready for what you will be in 10 years. He starts preparing you. And that's what God did with Joseph. He prepared him. So God is always working on the big picture. We have a limited view of things. We have very limited view of things. We cannot see everything, but God is able to see everything. And one thing that we need to remember is, what we can remember from Joseph's story is, he and he alone can take care of everything. God is the only one who can take care of everything, both now and eternally, forever. He is the only one who can take care of everything. Okay, so that is what we see. And now we go into the chapter 42. And in chapter 42, we see we start looking at, again, we come back to what's happening in Jacob's life. We see what's happening in Jacob's family. So from Egypt, the scene shifts to, again, Jacob's brothers and Jacob's family now. So where are they? Joseph was during that time when Joseph was preparing everything for the famine years, he prepared everything, he had everything ready. And then the famine came. There were people coming from different countries for food. So if you look at the whole map of the world, you can see this little square, rectangle here. That's the area where this story is happening. A little small place in the center of the world. Center of the world. That's where this was happening. Okay, that small area. So the famine was in all that area. So if you see the closer picture of that small area, Jacob is at Bethel. If you look at the my arrow here, Jacob is at Bethel. Joseph is in Egypt. Joseph is in Egypt. And this whole area was under famine. The whole area was under famine. And now Jacob comes to know, we see that Jacob comes to know, we know the story, right? Jacob comes to know that there is food in Egypt. And he was angry with his sons. He was like, why do you just keep looking at each other? He goes, why do you keep looking at each other? I have heard there is grain in Egypt. Why don't you go down there and bring some food for us so that we can all live? So that was what he said. And then he sends his sons. So how many sons go? How many sons went? Does anybody remember how many sons went?
2.
I think all of them.
How many brothers went to Egypt to bring the food?
All the 10 ones that are older than.
The 10 brothers older than Joseph, right? Yeah. So it was the 10 brothers. So 10 of them. Why do you think Benjamin did not go? Who did not go?
Jacob did not.
Benjamin.
Benjamin. Why did Benjamin not go?
Because his father thought that, like, he doesn't want his most youngest son to get like hurt or get lost or anything like that.
Yeah, because he now, since Joseph was not there, Benjamin has become the second favorite son now. Because Joseph is not there now, he did not want, Benjamin was the youngest son, Benjamin was the favorite now, and father did not want to send him. So again, it's the 10 brothers going down to Egypt. And they took some silver coins. They took some silver coins and they traveled almost 200 miles to Egypt. They traveled 200 miles to Egypt. And what was the first thing that they did when they went to Egypt? So as soon as the brothers arrived, what did they do? What was the first thing that they did?
They bowed to Joseph and then asked him for food.
They bowed down. That's the first thing. And when did God say, tell them that they would be bowing down? In a
Dream.
dream. So see, the brothers did not recognize Joseph. We know that, right? The brothers did not recognize Joseph because he was just a young man. But now he must have been he was almost like 30 years, probably 28, 20, 30. He was almost 30 years old. So they didn't recognize him. But Joseph was able to recognize his brothers immediately. And what do you think Joseph must be thinking when they bowed down?
Like, wow, this is really happening.
Right? He must have remembered that dream all long. Yeah, he must have been like, wow, the dream is coming true now. After all these years, what God had spoken was coming true. So now, one thing, let me tell you something, okay? Just close your eyes. Imagine you are Joseph and go back. Just think about this. Just close your eyes and think about for a minute that you are Joseph and your brothers have come in front of you seeking food. They came to you seeking food. They bow down in front of you. How would you react? What would your response be when you look at your brothers?
Surprise?
Imagine yourself as Joseph. Imagine yourself as Joseph sitting there in a throne, and the brothers come, he recognizes them, and they come and bow down. They bow down to the ground in front of him. What do you think his response? We know the response in the Bible, but if you were Joseph, what would your response be?
I would say in my heart, some dreams could come true. Those dreams are given by God, and the dreams given by God are true, and they will happen sooner or later.
Okay, you, in your heart, you would be thinking, wow, Jesus, the dreams have come true, that God's words will definitely come true. Okay, that's good. But how would your response be towards your brother, towards the brothers?
I'd be happy to see them.
You would be happy to see them. Okay.
Thank you.
And also, I would say, like, I told you you would bow to me one day, and then they would recognize him.
Okay.
And
You would-
also, he
you-
would be surprised.
You would be surprised. Okay.
Maybe like a little angry because they sold me in the first place, but then
You might be a little bit angry because they sold you in the first place. Okay, that's also good.
He might be a little scared because if they're spying on him or if they're trying to kill him again.
Okay. He could be a little scared.
Jealous.
Of
And
thinking-
also thinking of his father and everything else.
He could be thinking about his father and everything else. Yep, that could also happen. Anything else? They're asking for
also
food.
the
They bow
king
down and
started
they're
to have-
asking her for food. How would you think you would respond?
I'm surprised.
Surprised, okay.
You'd be like,
And also, I think give him.
Yeah.
I would be like, why should I give you food when you sold me in the first place?
Right? See, that would be our nature, right? That would be our way of thinking. That's exactly how we would be thinking. See, you didn't believe when I told you my dreams, you didn't believe that you would bow down to me. If that's exactly how we would be, right? If we were in Joseph's place, we would be like, see, I'm Joseph. You sold me to the Egyptians, but God was with me, and see where I am. Did I not tell you that that I had a dream that you will be bowing down? See, that exactly has happened. You almost killed me. You sold me. So why do I have to give you food now? Go fend for yourselves. Those could be the immediate response of any normal person, any person. That would be a just response for them. It could be a correct response for the way they treated Joseph. But Joseph was different. Why was Joseph different?
Just because God was with him.
Yeah, he was different because he was looking everything according to God's eyes. He was thinking, okay, he was so trusting in God that he was able to see God's plan in his life. He was able to understand how God works because he had such a good communication with God. He had such trust in God that he was able to see what God is doing in his life. And we can see, we understand that because at a later date,
And
he kind of
also-
speaks it out. Yeah, he kind of speaks it out. He tells it at a later date.
He has
At
God
a-
in his heart.
He had God in his heart. That's the reason. Because he had God in his heart, God gave him the grace to be patient with the brothers, to love them, even though they did so much bad to him. He was able to still show compassion towards them. And where did he learn that? In the prison. He's seen so many people who did so many wrong things, and he was able to show compassion to those prisoners who were nothing to him. They were not even related. So he learned that in the prison. And now he's able to show it to his brothers. So he does not reveal himself. He does not reveal himself, but he kind of wanted to know certain things, right? He wanted to know certain things from his father. And so he wanted to know about his brother. He could see only 10. So probably he must be thinking, how is my brother? How is my dad? So he must have, so what did he do? He started questioning them, right? And the Job brothers could not even recognize him because what did he do? He used an interpreter. He understood the Hebrew language. He knew the Hebrew language, but still he does not speak the Hebrew language with the brothers. He speaks to them in Egyptian and keeps an interpreter so that the brothers will not find out. And then he starts asking them. He kind of tries to get the right answers. He wants to know how his brother, are they sorry for treating him bad? Have they repented? Are they okay now? I think he had all these questions. So he starts questioning them. How does he question? What does he say to them? In verse 9.
Are you spying on me?
Yeah. So he goes, you are spies, right? He goes and says, then he remembered his dreams about them and said to them, you are spies. You have come to see where our land is unprotected. And then they start saying him, no, 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 that's not what we are. We are all sons of one man. And they kind of tell them. So he was kind of getting the information about what had happened all these years. He was trying to get the information. And what do they say? They kind of try to tell them that we are not spies. We have come to serve food. Verse 11. Can somebody read verse 11? 42 verse 11. Genesis 42 verse 11. Go ahead, read it, Mithila.
Okay, 1 minute.
So, Pranita, could I read it instead? Because I have it right now.
Okay. Mithila, are you ready? Okay, go ahead, Isaac.
We are all the sons of man. Your servants are honest men, not spies.
What are they calling themselves? They're calling themselves honest men. If you know somebody is not honest, somebody has told lies, they were doing the wrong things, and they come and tell you, I'm an honest man, how would you feel?
You are lying to me. Lie to me.
It kind of seemed, probably Joseph must have felt strange that their brothers were calling themselves honest men. So what does he do? He says, I don't want to believe your story unless I see your younger brother. I want to see your younger brother. I want to see that you're telling me the truth. And they say to themselves, they didn't know that Joseph could understand what they were talking. And let's see what they started thinking about that situation right there. Verse 22, 21, I'm saying, I'm reading from verse 20. Yeah, can you read from verse 20?
Okay. And bring your youngest brother to me, so your words will be verified, and you shall not die. And they did so. Then they said to one another, In truth, we are guilty concerning our brother. In that we saw the dust of his soul, and when he begged us, and he will not listen. This is why we distress has come upon us.
See, what does this tell about this conversation? What does it talk about? Tell us about the brothers.
That Reuben only recognized Joseph.
No, Reuben did not recognize Joseph. They were thinking about Joseph. Even after all these years, they were thinking about Joseph, their guilt, the guilt that they had of doing a wrong thing was still with them. See, when you sin, the guilt doesn't go away. That's what we need to remember. In that conversation, if you look at the conversation of the brothers, they said to one another, God is certainly punishing us because of our brother. That means all these years they've done something wrong, and that guilt was still with them, and they were still thinking about Joseph. They were still thinking about the wrong thing that they've done. And they were feeling guilty of how they treated their brother. So now they understood the situation. They were thinking, this situation is because God is punishing us. That means all these years from the time they have sold Joseph, they were not at peace. They didn't have any peace. Sin takes away the peace from our lives. Sin takes away peace from our lives. That's what the situation tells us from the brothers. Anything happens, we will be connecting it to the wrong thing that we've done. Probably I did that wrong. That's the reason I'm suffering now. Anything happens. So now Joseph is not believing in them, and they were like connecting it, the suffering, the little suffering that they had to go through, they were connecting it to God punishing them because of what they did. So that is what happens when you sin. Anything wrong happens, we will be thinking about the sin that we've done. The guilt does not go away. When you do the right thing, Joseph did the right thing. He was doing the right thing all the time. He was at peace. He was happy. Even though he was in the prison, he was happy. He was compassionate. He was kind. Wherever he was, God was with him. So he was happy. But look at these brothers. They were worried. They were wondering if God was punishing them. Anything that happened to them, they must have been thinking that God was punishing them because they were cruel to Joseph. They were thinking, so all this situation is because the famine, them coming and being humiliated by Joseph, they were thinking is all because God was making them accountable for what they had done wrong. Do you think they repented? They are thinking that God is punishing them, but do you feel that they must have repented because of what they did to Joseph?
No.
No.
No. Right? They did something wrong, but they still did not repent. Repentance is changing your mind. They didn't change their mind. They're still. See, when he heard the brothers arguing, Joseph must have thought about what it was like all those years ago. So one thing we have to remember, sin always causes pain. So be as far away from sin as possible. Be away from sin as far as possible. Don't go near sin. Any wrong thing, Be like Joseph, who was always doing the right thing, who was always doing the right thing. So I'm going to stop since it's already 4:50. I'm going to stop here and we will continue that tomorrow. So since so what we learned today is God, when we believe in, when we trust in God, He gives us the grace to and the power to do the right thing. So Joseph was able to do the right thing. He was not able, he did not want to take revenge. He did not want to take revenge on his brothers when they came. He was not even thinking about it. He was not even thinking about taking revenge on their brother, on his brothers. So how did he do that? Because God's grace was the one that gave him the power to do the right thing. I will not give you any memory verse for tomorrow, since we will continue this on Monday. And tomorrow we will be doing the missionary story. So I will not give you any memory verse for tomorrow, but remember, God is the one who will give us the grace or the power to do the right thing at all times. And and remember, sin will always make us, keep us guilty. It will continue. It will not give us peace. It will always bother us. It will always keep bothering us. It will always cause us pain. So we have to be far away from sin. Let's be far away from sin. Okay, let's be away from sin. That is what we learned today. Okay, let's go to the memory verse from yesterday. Anybody learned your memory verse from yesterday? Ecclesiastes 3:11. God makes all things beautiful.
Auntie, can I say something?
Yes, Nitila, go ahead, say it.
You said something about like how Joseph didn't do bad things because God was with him. I have another meaning. You could say that God was in his heart.
Yeah, God was in his heart. Yes, that's correct. God was within it. God, he trusted God, so God was in his heart. So he was able to stand strong and say no to the wrong things.
Auntie, what is the memory verse for tomorrow?
I didn't give the memory verse. There's no memory verse for tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Auntie, can I go? Can I go next?
Yes, Neha, go ahead and say your memory verse.
He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he put eternity in a man's heart. Yet
No one.
Yet he can't find out what God has done in the beginning and to the end.
Wow, very good, Neha. Good job.
That's how the top say
Ecclesiastes.
Ecclesiastes 3 chapter 3 verse 11. Praise the Lord, Auntie.
Praise the Lord. Okay, who wants to go? Who learned their memory verse next?
Yeah, I did, Supranatha. Can I?
Yeah, go ahead, Isaac.
He has made everything in his beautiful time. He has put eternity in the human heart. No one can fathom what God has done from the beginning to the end.
Very good.
Oh, Ecclesiastes 3:11.
Very good. Okay. Chelsea, anyone else?
Go next.